Thousands of people gathered at Moscow's Red Square on Monday, and they roared when President Vladimir Putin appeared on stage a day after his victory in elections where he stood unchallenged. Putin hailed the return of Ukrainian territories to Russia during a concert marking 10 years since his country annexed Crimea, a step seen by many as a precursor to the 2022 full-scale offensive. Russians had been called during the elections to throw their weight behind the ongoing military operation in Ukraine to cast as a show of support for Putin's offensive. There were no polling stations for Russian citizens in the U.S. city of Seattle, so Sunday's worldwide movement known as Noon Against Putin was instead a commemoration of opposition leader Alexei Navalny. Natasha Mozgovaya has the story.
In the past month, the Peace Garden near Seattle's Space Needle became a site where many Russian diaspora members came to express their grief for the late opposition leader Alexei Navalny. About 40 opposition activists again gathered here Sunday as the presidential elections weekend unfolded and Vladimir Putin, in power since 1999, claimed a landslide victory in a non-competitive election. Activists signed a petition calling on the U.S. Congress to not recognize the Russian results. Natasha Mozgovaya, VOA News, Seattle, Washington.
U.S. President Joe Biden warned Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday an Israeli military operation in Rafah would deepen anarchy in Gaza, and they agreed teams from both sides would meet in Washington to discuss it, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said.
President Biden asked the Prime Minister to send a senior interagency team composed of military, intelligence, and humanitarian officials to Washington in the coming days.
This is VOA News. Famine is imminent and likely to occur by May in northern Gaza and could spread across the enclave by July, a UN-backed report said on Monday, after more than 5 months of war which have shattered the Palestinian territory and cut off supplies. Reuters correspondent Lauren Anthony reports.
Outside a warehouse in Gaza City, crowds of Palestinians clamor for aid. But the meager supplies currently reaching the enclave are nowhere near enough to sustain a population that a UN-backed report says is weeks away from famine. The Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, or IPC, said on Monday that it expects famine to hit the north of the Gaza Strip between now and May, and that the number of people experiencing catastrophic hunger has risen to 1.1 million. That's around half of the population.
Reuters correspondent Lauren Anthony. Former U.S. President Donald Trump's lawyers say he can't post a large multi-million-dollar bond required in his business fraud trial in New York, AP correspondent Jackie Quinn reports.
The Trump defense team has informed a New York appellate court Donald Trump can't post the bond required to cover the $454 million judgment against him and his Trump organization while they try to appeal that verdict. His lawyers say he'll have to produce $500 million in collateral to obtain a bond, too high for most of the bonding entities. The court ruled that unless Trump posted a bond for deceiving banks and insurers about his wealth, it would allow enforcement of the judgment to begin next week. New York's Attorney General Letitia James says she'll pursue seizing his assets if Trump is unable to pay. I'm Jackie Quinn.
Gangs have attacked 2 upscale neighborhoods in Haiti's capital in a rampage that left at least a dozen people dead in surrounding areas. Gunmen looted homes in the communities before sunrise on Monday. They forced residents to flee, as some called radio stations pleading for police. The neighborhoods had remained largely peaceful despite a surge in violent gang attacks across Port-au-Prince that began on February 29th. Nigeria's army on Monday denied carrying out revenge attacks after the killing of 16 soldiers in the southern Delta state as residents accused troops of burning a village in retaliation. Videos of flaming houses have circulated on social media since Sunday, but AFP has not been able to verify the footage. Residents in the oil-rich region accused troops of targeting residents after the announcement of the soldiers' deaths on Saturday. The Army said the soldiers were killed after being surrounded by local youths on Thursday during a bid to mediate between groups.
Thank you for watching. Can you do me a favor? Please leave a comment in the comments section below. That would really help. Thank you, and see you again soon.